to Rex Arthur TV, and this is the Rex Arthur Show, the LGBTQ channel that discusses news and views with an LGBTQ perspective and also philosophy with the River of Thought, Lava Fikir. We just did the merger of River of Thought and Lava Fikir together with Rex Arthur. And today we want to discuss diversity of learning and diversity of knowledge. And this is going to be philosophical. So I've been thinking every time I have a thought, I bring it up here. Well, not every thought, some thoughts. I think a lot, and but there's some thoughts I like thinking. I like bringing up. One thought is this one of learning. I've got to learn that people learn things in different ways, and people know things in different ways. And sometimes we get to know things quite differently because of the systems we are in or because of the systems we've grown up into. And I was thinking, like, some people, most majority of the world, like, I think I got this because I was thinking about the literacy rates of the world and how people read and write. And I noticed something. People, some people know things without writing and reading. Like languages. How do children speak languages when they can't even read and write? How did they learn the language? They didn't go to class. They stayed with their parents. They stayed with their parents at home and they got to learn languages. There's a kids can even learn three languages at a go. And you ask yourself, why? No one is a teacher to that kid, but the kid just picks up and learns the language. So that cognitive ability and the way it's so flexible. And then after that, a few years, the child now goes to school and they're taught how to read and write. But remember, they don't, most children start reading newspapers a bit later in their childhood. And they read storybooks. So they're still, but they get to know other things. Like what's happening today, children are getting to know a lot other than through reading, like using a smartphone, like a tablet, like they are given toys that they can control. And many times when you see children who are very tech savvy, they can swipe, they can connect because they know how to control the remote controls and all of these things. And it's weird, who taught them? They didn't go to school to learn. And this is the reason why if you find a child doing something, 80% an old person will do it. And the only thing I don't see children doing is texting. You rarely find children texting on Facebook or WhatsApp or what do you call it? What's the other one? Twitter. Yes, most especially Twitter is very textful, and they rarely find children there because they haven't reached the age of forming sentences. But they are good at swiping. They're good at going through YouTube. They're good at learning very many things, and I observe children around me, and I see a very weird cleverness and intelligence they have. But even if you go to the village, the children also, as I've told you, they learn language minus reading or writing. So cognition is a very important subject. Very important subject. And all of our education systems, they integrate this ability. They use this ability of cognition and hang on it to teach these children how to read and write. And that's when now we come into the system whereby to know something, you have to read about it. But in ancient societies, to know something, you didn't really read about it. You saw it being done. Like I think why children can use the smartphone today, it's not that they have learned it, they have seen how the adults are using them, and then they also copy them, and then within a short time they gain practice, and it's mostly like a music instrument. Very many good musicians started when they were kids, you know, and they were, of course, like especially jazz musicians, they they don't necessarily play music by reading music. There are two types of musicians. Some musicians, okay, many types of musicians. We've left duality. Yeah. Some musicians, excuse me, some musicians read and for them to play music. Others don't read to play music. Others can read and can also play music without reading the music, the shit music. So, excuse me, it was coming. So the what I'm trying to say is that even with knowledge, some people get to know things without without reading, and others get to know things through reading, and others can read and also know without reading. Excuse me. So what does this mean? This means most people just there are diverse ways of learning. There are diverse ways of knowing things. So this means there are diverse education systems, and this means there are diverse systems of knowledge, and this means there are diverse systems, diverse knowledge economies, because knowledge is known in different ways. And I was talking to someone yesterday, excuse me, he was saying about Facebook. I think it was on Facebook, and we were talking about low IQ. And I still have an issue with IQ because I have a feeling IQ is diverse, and it can be racially diverse, it can be genetically diverse, it can be sexually diverse. Like IQ, there are certain things that males can do better in IQ wise, they can do better than women. And then there are some things women can do also IQ wise better than men. So what does that mean? It means the IQ of a man may not be the IQ structure, infrastructure of the man is not the same as a woman's infrastructure. Why? Because of many reasons. Even the brain of a man and a woman are different. But guess what? There are some men who have brains that are similar to women, and some women have brains similar to that of men. And what does that mean? That means it is above sex. It is, as I told you, we are intersex. I used to say we're bisexual, but intersex is the best. Why? Because we both have male and female sex hormones. So what does this mean? Those who have more female sex hormones probably are able to get a female brain, even if they are male. And those who have more male sex hormones probably get a brain that is that of a man. And like if you look at the hominids and the early man, I'm reading so much about evolution and I'm enjoying it every day. And the what was happening there, if you noticed, the women were very muscular. They were very muscular. And I was asking myself, just hold on, I need to attend to myself now. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I think, the weather is changing. So, when you want to study weather, June 22nd is when the sun is overhead in the northern hemisphere. So, when you study the movements of the sun, the most important date is July 22nd, which we have just passed last week. So July 22nd, that was the week of the blood moon, if you can remember. So what does that mean? It means after every 4 weeks, the sun, it changes where the sun is overhead, its positions change. And like right now, July 22nd, in June 22nd, the sun is overhead on the Tropic of Cancer, which is around Britain and Scandinavia. Now, in July 22nd, the sun will be very overhead in Central Europe. So we are in this July 22nd, and what has happened? If you're watching the news, Spain is is very hot right now. It's because the sun has left part of the Tropic of Cancer. We're still in the Tropic of Cancer. It's very big. It stops still before at the equator. That's Eastern Africa and the Congo forest. So the the sun is now in Spain and Portugal and parts of Greece and a bit of the Arab world. So the Arab world is also very hot right now at 48 degrees because the sun is now making, and then Britain and Scandinavia, they're still hot but not so hot. So then the next time we're going to have another important date. It's August 22nd. And that is when the sun enters into what is the constellation called Virgo. So when it's Virgo, the sun will be mostly now in North Africa, or overhead, very overhead in North Africa. And when it's in North Africa, the weather is changing. So like now, the reason why some people get flus is because the temperature of the environment, the weather is changing because of the sun's movement. So you must understand. Thankfully, scientists are becoming so interdisciplinary. We all sciences are connected. All, and I repeat, all sciences are connected, and there's no science that's not connected to another science. Yes, and no form of knowledge that's not connected to another form of knowledge. And one of the things that help knowledge connected is language. You'll find some words that are in physics are in biology, and some words that are in biology are in chemistry, and some words that are in chemistry are in computer science. So that's why some of us who are some people are weather sensitive. So when there is a change in the weather, they can pick up a cold. So I think I've got this cold just around this week after the blood moon and everything. So it could be one of the reasons. But always wait for 20 seconds, 20 seconds. The zodiac, those guys who like looking at stars and the sun, it's actually the astrological calendar is actually a solar calendar. It always moves to like that. Those are those guys who know those things. For you who doesn't, it's okay. But now that's the topic we're discussing. Knowledge is diverse, learning is diverse. So in Africa, I was studying African I study African history not only by reading, but even by thinking and imagining how was it in Africa where there was no electricity and everything, and even talking to old people, and they'll tell you that in those days they used to just sit by the fire and stories were told. That time there was no writing of books. Why? Because the child already knew the language. He learns the language by audio. Audio. That's why some people who are very multilingual, it's because they have a very good ear to pick and to connect. It's unbelievable. That's why I always say everybody has God in them. Yes, everybody has God in them, because there's something someone can do that you can't do. and it's unbelievable. That's another theological. That's why I love Paul when he said God is in all and for all. Yes, he's in every single person. Yes, every single person. Why? Because he created them, because he loved them. And what it means by that is not that these people don't make mistakes. It's that they have the ability to do something spiritual and powerful as a human being. And one of the times when you want to measure humanity, you measure their ability rather than their. You don't look at what they do wrong or right. That's a moral question. Like Hitler was an artist, but he did very bad by killing millions of people. But he had an artistic gift, which was it's not everybody's artistic. So that's how it is. You can even find many people in prison. It's not that they are wholly bad. No, they can still work. It's just that they committed a crime or an offense that it supersedes what they can do in society. And that's why when they go to prison, most sometimes the new prison systems, what they do, they kind of utilize the talents of these people. The only problem, what has happened in China, it has made the prison system a slave system, because these prisoners are able to make things like clothes and everything. Then after that, that thing is sold without paying them. They stay there. And I was being told in Turkey, prisoners pay their bills. So, which means most likely they work in the prison and they keep the money. I mean, if I was to have a prison, I would make them work and pay them, and then they pay the bills for their for their prison room. But anyway, that's a very nice prison if you ask me. But in Africa, it's very different. Oh my, Africa, the prisons are no-go zones for anyone who wants to live a good life, because the prisons are crammed. I imagine, I just looked at South African prisons and I was like, what? But for the gay people, it's kind of, yeah. So it is a nice night if you have space, of course. But anyway, other than that, in Africa, the prisons are not that developed, but they have started doing that. They even now have schooling, and they teach them for those who want to improve their lives. And I think it's a good way of reforming society, because if you look at the numbers after a long 20 years, when you've done all of those prison reform and prison education and prison occupations, you can be a tailor, you can be a mason. After that, you'll realize the number of people who commit crimes reduce. People, there's a system that is reforming those who are a bit making tea. Um but that's just one area of life. I just had to divert a bit. So as we conclude, this is not going to be a long video, it's just my thoughts. So knowledge, you think, I mean, there's diverse ways of knowing something. And remember what you said in the other video, that knowledge is sex. If you read the King James version of it, it says Adam knew Eve. Adam knew Eve. So what is that? Knew, to know. He went and slept with Eve. It was a euphemism, a good way to saying someone has had sex. So, but I like it because it means knowledge is like sex. And what happens in sex? There's connection. There's connection. There's connection. This enters in, and that's like what I'm doing when I'm talking to you. I'm penetrating your ears, and knowledge is entering and staying in there. And if you already have knowledge and it's a bit against my knowledge, you'll be like, oh, because that's the sign of the penetration is happening, but you're feeling like, if you're a receiver, you're able to understand. But if you've never received, I don't think you'll be able to understand what is going on. But you've been receiving. Everybody is a receiver. Let me tell you. It's just that some people are not. Not everybody is a physical receiver in sex, but everybody is a receiver. Because right now, someone who can penetrate with words is receiving. And when you communicate, you're also giving and receiving. Someone says, "How are you?" That's a penetration. It has entered. And then you say, "Fine." "And how are you?" I also penetrate. And it says, "I'm okay." So sex is intercourse and is knowledge. And we are saying there are diverse ways of knowing something. And therefore, that's why there's sexual diversity. There's homosexuality, there's heterosexuality, there's pansexuality, there is sex whereby you don't penetrate, there's non penetrative sex, there is penetrative sex, there is, because you can ejaculate without, there's self sex, masturbation, that is sex. Yeah, it's like knowing something. You can sit down somewhere and think. That's like having sex with yourself. Just sit down and think about something. You get an idea and you're done. But there are others we have to dialogue and talk to people. So that means like you're rolling in the bed and you're like, oh, you just stand a bit and, like that. That's like just discussing how to get an idea until you get the result. And the end result is the climax of the whole thing. So I know those are very exciting stories, but the fact is there's diverse learning and diverse knowledge. So let's conclude this way. Like in Africa, and why I'm saying this is because I love being an African and also being a human being, because I also don't want to be limited by geographical restrictions. I'm happy. I'm also a human being. I'm number one, a human being. Number one. And that's what I stand for. Then the rest of these things, black, African, country, wherever, they'll come later. And because human being, human rights, that's it. So in Africa, there are very many ways. Africa is the same continent where the Egyptian hieroglyphics were writing. And it has just been found the Nubians were writers. They are the blackest, one of the blackest people in Sudan. And they found their writings. Because, even the pyramids, there are more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt. It's just that they are smaller. And very beautiful, by the way. Very. The lines are so straight, you can't believe it. They are mathematicians. And they were writers. But when you go to West Africa, they were very good carvers. I mean, I like wearing this because of this design. Is out of this world. I don't know how to explain to you. It's just how do you sit down and think like this? It's just amazing. And then you go to Central Africa, and they are the musicians. They are very good at music. The Congolese and South African and now even Nigerians are good. And when you ask yourselves, how did you learn that guitar? That guy has no clue. There is no school he went to learn anything. He just plays it, and it's unbelievable. And that's knowledge. He got the knowledge in a very weird way. And other people, they get their knowledge through meditation. I had a friend, he just used to look at something. He would stare for 20 minutes. I think that's like Zen Buddhism. You stare at it and you keep almost like sun gazing. And after that, the moment he touched the piano, he was out of this world. And I was like, what? And he's done. So everybody has their way of getting to know something in a fast way. Others even take substances. Yes. Other people take substances to know things. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work for everybody. You see, not every way of knowing something works for everybody. But you should do what works for you. And then now we come to the normal Western system of reading and writing. So, friends, just know there are many ways of learning. That's why history is not only written history. though it's good to be written. Like now, even making videos is history, audiovisual. Recording MP3 songs, that's history. You've not written any book, and making speeches that are saved somewhere, because knowledge is diverse even in the way it has been stored or recorded. So guys, that was my thoughts about knowledge. It is diverse, and so is learning.